that was Steve at his work, sort of back then, Um, but then fast forward, to like 2000 and whatever, and he's up there then, rings me up and says, "Where are you going to be next week?" And I said, "I was going to be at the Firefest festival." And the Firefest festival, my band Storm Zone. This was after the hotel thing with Steve listening and finding out that Storm Zone sounded good. So he heard me singing and stuff, and he was going, yeah, I think I could get you something, And I went, no, I'm happy enough, I'm happy enough with what I'm doing at the moment. So he came to Firefest. We weren't playing at the time, but he met up with us there. I always remember because there was it was Bonfire. I really wanted to see Bonfire. And we were talking, having a beer and stuff. And then I went into the toilet, and I was washing my hands, and there was this guy, and he was like, one of these spray, things you give him a pound then, as a tip on your way out or whatever. And I was coming out, and he went, "Would you like some, like some cologne or whatever?" And I went, "Yeah, okay." And I handed him a pound, and he went, "Psst," and he sprayed the fucking stuff straight into my eyes. And I went, "Ah!" So I went out, and I could hardly see anything. And there was Bonfire performing. And I went over, and I knew whereabouts Margaret and Steve were, sort of thing. And they guided me over, and they said, I says, "I'm listening to them, but I can't see them, and all I really wanted to do the whole time was to see Bonfire playing." But that was the night that he asked me to go to the Classic Rock Awards over in London. And I had to obviously get permission from Margaret, because I was going to be away for a couple of days. And the significance of the Classic Rock Awards were that you got to mingle with like the greats of rock, sort of thing. So I went over anyway, and so Margaret allowed me to go, and I got sitting at a table with Steve to my left hand side, and there was Alice Cooper, Bruce Dickinson, the guys from Thunder were there, Queen were there, all of it was unbelievable, just the amount of these. David Coverdale was there. In fact, there was a good wee story, because at the Firefest before we went to the Classic Rock Awards, Winger were doing a set at Firefest, and Red Beach, the guitarist with Whitesnake, was also sort of doing a stint with Kip Winger. So at the Classic, but we got backstage. Steve Strange signed Winger up that night, and then obviously I was talking to Red Beach for a wee bit, and photographs and stuff taken with him and whatever. But then, so I found out, what he was going to be doing next, sort of thing. So when we got to the Classic Rock Awards, then a couple of weeks later, David Coverdale was standing with a glass of champagne, and Steve brought me over and introduced me to David Coverdale. And David Coverdale was all, "How are you, my friend?" And I'm great, So I said to David, "What do you have, sort of like lined up, whatever?" And he went, "I'm not too sure." He says, "I'm not going to do his accent, sort of thing, but he says, I'm hoping whenever the guys, when we get together, we can sort of plan a tour for what was then, it was beyond this sort of live in the heart of the city thing, it was what was coming next." And I said, "Well, Reb's going to be doing the Winger shows for about another 3 weeks, so I think he might be actually, available in December or whatever. I think that's what he said." And David Coverdale just looked at me and said, "You know more about my fucking band than I do." It was me, going, And then Steve took me from there, introduced me to Ronnie James Dio, and introduced me to Alice Cooper, introduced me to so many great people. Even now, people that weren't instantly recognizable, but in the classic rock scene, like the guys from Mott the Hoople, and Emerson. I was sitting beside Greg Palmer, the Emerson Lake Palmer. It was just incredible, And then back to Steve's house, and then obviously I was wrecked. When I went to sleep, got up the next morning, and before that we went to a wee place called the Embassy Rooms, and I was sitting having drinks with the Iron Maiden manager Rod Smallwood, and Rod said, "Steve's saying nice things about your band Storm Zone." He says, "I think I would like to manage your band," and I'm going, "Rod's Iron yes, not a problem." I always remember going up. Now, Steve had went up to the bar and put his card behind the bar, so anything you wanted to drink, you just went up and asked for it, and you didn't have to pay for it. But because Rod had sort of suggested this, then I went, this. I mean, the Iron Maiden manager has just asked me, is it okay if he manages my band? So I'm gonna celebrate this. The guys from The Answer were there as well. So I said to everybody at the table, is it okay if I actually buy you a drink? I want to buy you a drink. I don't want it to be on the thing, because this is something that I want to do as a kind of an appreciation, and and they all laughed, sort of thing, going, "Oh yeah, go on ahead, yeah, you work away there." So it's, well, what do you want? And Rod was double brandy and whiskey. I mean, in the company there were only about 7 people, but I was sort of going, right, okay, double whiskey, double brandy, blah blah blah, and I went up to the bar and said, "This isn't on the card. I'm paying for this, myself," sort of thing. So the guy poured the drinks and set them on the tray, and I'm looking at them and going, and I think I pulled out, like 2 £20 notes, and the guy was sort of like, are you paying cash?" And I went, "Yes," and he went, "That'll be £67.50. And I go, "What? £67.50 for fucking..." This is a lot, this was, fuck, I don't know, I can't remember, 2006, I think it was, 2005, anyway, yeah, but by the end of that night, Steve had actually talked Rod Smallwood out of managing Storm Zone, because he said that he wanted to do it, But I always remember going back and getting up the following morning and looking around their room.